Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to BLAW Live. This is Bishop Larry Ward live, and just want to welcome you here on this Tuesday evening, and just want to just thank you so much for being a part of our discussion tonight. And we have a special guest. And before I just introduce our guest tonight, just wanted you to reach out, share, have a watch party. We're here tonight to have a really powerful discussion. And so my guest tonight is our brother Robert Ginyard, and he is a powerful man of God. Introduced me to him, is Tony introduced me to him, and we are just delighted that he has just taken the time and made himself available to be with us tonight. And so, as you are out there, I just want to let you know that we're here to encourage, to inspire you. We're also here to also give you some tidbits of knowledge and things that will help you to grow as a believer. And we just trust that all these discussions that we've been having over the series of months during the COVID pandemic will be strengthening to you in that. So go back into the archives and check them out. We have some fantastic guests, and we also have some great topics. And so tonight, I'd like to introduce our guest, the person of Robert Ginyard. He's an entrepreneur. He's a speaker. He is a cancer survivor, and he created Dibby Dibby, which means dream it, believe it, do it, be it. And it's an awareness campaign and a lifestyle brand to encourage people to live out their dreams. I'm sure you have some dreams that you want to live out. So you want to definitely hear this man of God speak to us tonight. He's the creator and producer of a great, wonderful podcast called Intentionally Overheard with Robert Ginyard. It's a podcast that highlights the stories of people who dared to dream and commit to making their dreams come true. He's a sought after speaker. He's also been noted to be on a guest on many of the networks, and some of those networks are from New York Times to USA Today, Washington Post. And so he's a sought after speaker, and many television outlets have asked him to speak. And so tonight, we are so happy, and there's so much more I could say about him, but we want to get to the talking. We want to get right to it. And so I just want you to welcome my guest tonight, everyone, Robert Ginyard. Robert, thank you so much for coming. Welcome.
Thank you, Bishop Ward. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, when this whole idea of, inspiring people to live out their dreams, how did you connect that with your particular calling? How did you?
Well, Bishop, Dibby Dibby actually was the result of my prostate cancer journey. And the way that happened is I remember my first day of my radiation treatment. And before I was going into the machine to get the radiation, I said, Lord, when I get through this, I'm going to go through all the dreams that I wanted to accomplish and really make a concerted effort to go after them and make them happen. And so I made that promise, Bishop, to the Lord, and I said, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And after my treatments were over, I fell into this level of complacency, and many cancer survivors that I know, we've talked about this. You get to a place, Bishop, where you don't want to do too much, just in case something happens and there's a relapse, if you will, or reoccurrence. And so I was kind of at that point where, just kind of ride it out, take it easy, don't make a whole lot of noise, but just enjoy your life. And so what had happened is one night I was laying in bed, wife and I, we were getting ready to go to bed, and I just couldn't sleep that night. I kept tossing and turning, and my wife fell off to sleep, and, again, tossing and turning. And it got to one point, Bishop, where my wife said, look, you know what? You may be dead before you know it if you keep just tossing and turning. And she said, you're going to wake me up. You're going to wake the girls up. So she said, you better get yourself together over there. And so I took that to heart and tried to lay still, but still couldn't do it. And I just heard this voice come over, and it said, Dibby Dibby. And I said, now, what in the heck is that? And I always keep a notepad next to my bed. And so I wrote it down, and then I was able to get a little bit of sleep, and but it kept bothering me as to what it was. And then, sure enough, maybe about 30 minutes after that, then it was clear as a bell. It was dream it, believe it, do it, be it. And that next morning, I had a friend make the design and put it on a T-shirt, and it became my mantra for living. And so then people saw the shirt and they read it, and they said, "Oh, I get that." And so that's how it all began. It was basically the Lord nudging me and saying, "You didn't fulfill your promise, and so I'm going to put something on you that will inspire you and motivate you." And it's been a tool to actually help others in their quest for their dreams.
Wow, that's an amazing story, and I thank God that he delivered you, and he just when people get these really terminal illnesses, in some cases they get diseases, they just kind of just fold up and they just kind of just that's, well, maybe this is my time to go. But
Yes,
as the Lord delivered you from cancer and you're a cancer survivor, there are people probably listening and say, I may not have cancer, but I have some other things that are limiting. So what might you say to them in, in this moment where they probably have some dreams, they have some
sure.
desires and goals? What
Well,
would you
well,
say?
Bishop, if I could back up for just a moment, and you mentioned about the how the Lord had delivered me through this, and I'm always reminded of the movie "It's a Wonderful Life." And in the beginning of the movie, there's this conversation going on, and they're asking about. He says, "Clarence, we need you down on Earth to help George Bailey." And there's this conversation, and he says, "Well, what's wrong with him? Is he sick?" And the answer comes back as, "No, he's not sick. He's lost hope." And I think when you talked about, people having terminal illnesses and things, they begin to lose hope. And, scientific studies show that, once you start to lose hope, or, you're going to depression and other things, that has a profound impact on your health outcomes. And so my message to people is to, don't wait to get sick before you go after some dreams and goals, because I do think the pursuit and achievement of dreams is just as good as any other medicine that's out there. And so what I would, and that would be my message to people, is that life is precious. It can be short, and you really have to make a concerted effort to go after your dreams. And and I'm quite sure we'll talk about that later on. But part of going for those dreams is understanding what the journey is about. Um, you know, really, some dreams don't come true for everybody, but the dream is an action step to get you moving. And you probably know of people who, they had dreams or big aspirations about doing something big, maybe on Broadway, or becoming this, world famous poet or writer. And along the way, they were diverted into another direction. And, you know, and I tell people, but if you weren't in the pursuit of that thing that you were looking for, you couldn't have been diverted to the other thing that the Lord has for you to do. And so again, the pursuit of the dream, it's really about the motion, the action. Another case in point, as they show this movie around the Easter holiday, is The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy had everything that she needed at home, but it was about the journey. It was about action. It was about movement to expose those things, to give her the confidence to say, oh, I really do have this within me. And so the pursuit of dreams is not so much about the pursuit or achievement of one particular dream. It's about the motion and getting moving. And so that's what I would tell to folks that are listening, is that, pursue those dreams, those aspirations, and God may have another plan for you. But what he wants to do is see you in action, see you in movement, so that you can see things that are coming down the pike and say, okay, maybe that's something or a route I want to go. So that's what my advice would be, is to pursue the dreams, to at least get moving.
Well, that's very encouraging. And so I just want to continue in this vein and kind of still stay on this focusing on the dream And just before I ask this question, I just want to invite folks to put any questions that you have in the chat box. You can send it to us, and we're going to be tossing out these questions to our guest tonight. So please use the chat box and just put some questions in there for us. Because we are kind of coming out of the pandemic, and we're seeing a kind of really just kind of a loosening of some of the restrictions, but it's been a long season, and people have um, a lot of issues that they've been grappling with over this past year, which left many of them depressed and just kind of like, how do I fight through all that I've been through in order to really go after that dream that I had probably the time before the pandemic even hit? What would you say to them?
Sure. Well, you're absolutely correct. The pandemic caused us to be in close quarters with people that, are our family. And, it really tested some relationships because our work, our commute, all of these things were kind of some of the diversions to keep us from dealing with some of the things at home. And so now that you're in that restrictive space, you had to get to know yourself, your spouse, your children, because everything was front and center. And again, for the most part, you didn't have work to kind of divert your attention. And so I mentioned this to someone a few months ago that I remember when the pandemic hit that I started spending more time in my living room and drinking a cup of tea. And Bishop, for the most part, I just walk by the living room day in and day out. The furniture's there, it's, the table and all, and I really didn't spend time there. And so it was a lesson for all of us to get to know who we are. And we also had to endure those moments of silence where you weren't in the car during a commute and hearing horns blow and exhaust from vehicles. You were, for the most part, in your home, and you had quiet times that a lot of people were uncomfortable with. I always say that don't become too familiar with background noise or too comfortable with background noise, that silence makes you uncomfortable. Wow. And so I think that's what happened to a lot of people. It's like, whoa, what do I do with myself when there's no background noise? What do I say to my wife if, she may ask, well, how was your day at work? Well, for the most part, she pretty much knows if you're working from home, and she may hear you, or, everybody's working from home. So they kind of get a general sense of how your day's gone. And so I would say that this is a time, this pandemic has been a time that should have allowed us to do some self-examination. And I won't say beat yourself up, because I think a lot of people have figured, it's been a year and I didn't start that business, or I didn't write that book. I didn't do all of those things that I thought I would have time to do. And I think, Bishop, that's what's bothering a lot of people, is because they didn't get specific things done. And now, as we're starting to make that transition back to people getting vaccinated and at some point heading back to work, I think there's an issue of time, so now I had this opportunity, and did I blow it? And again, I think in terms of what people are feeling and depression and things of that nature, again, it really stems from, the work, and the other things were the distractions that hid a lot of that. And so I think this pandemic has really made us identify with who we are, find ourselves, find out who we are and who we aren't, get to know your family better. And so I think there's some positives, of course. The negatives I would hope people don't walk away with is to somehow feel as though they have failed at going after that second career, or they didn't do what they wanted to do while they had this opportunity.
That's really good. That's really good advice and good tips on moving forward. I have a question that came in from the audience. Sure. And it dovetails to just really what you were saying. If you've taken a few steps forward, here's the question: if you've taken a few steps forward toward your dream, but now you feel stuck. You feel stuck. What would you suggest the next step be? If someone just like, I'm kind of just frozen.
Well, here's what I would say is, and it really requires some self-examination. I would say get yourself a legal pad and write down the reasons why you are stuck or why you think you're stuck. Um, because I think putting them down on paper and to see them, and I would advise this. I remember I get stuck. A lot of people get stuck. And several months ago, I'd been working on this book, and Bishop, I got stuck. Because when I really got to the root of it, what it was is that just to give you an idea, this particular book is about my old neighborhood and how it's changed over the years. And I got stuck because there is a strong emotional attachment still close to my neighborhood.
Mm.
And so I was avoiding the emotional piece of dealing with that particular chapter of the book because it brought up so much emotion. And this is happening all across the country in different cities and counties. And, the my neighborhood has changed from what it was back in the 60s and the 70s and how you had all that home ownership and just pride in the neighborhood, and you go back there now and it's not the same place. So I was having an emotional block because I didn't want to confront that particular chapter of the book, because then I would start to have to peel back some of the reasons why I'm stuck. And so I remember, Bishop, that I came up to my office and I took out the legal pad and started writing the reasons why I was stuck. And it wound up being, this was just a mind dump where I was just writing things down. It was 157 reasons why I was stuck. And, when I started going through that, I'm like, what is the root of this? And then there were some consistencies as to what I was seeing. And so I would say to the get or the listener who asked the question, is that to write those things down. And again, just doesn't have to be in any kind of order. Whatever comes to mind, write it down, and you'll see a pattern of what the issue is. It may be recurrent. Even if you wrote it once, you may write it 5 or 6 times. And if you start to see that consistency, then okay, this is the reason why I'm stuck.
Wow, that's good. Just start writing
Yes.
down. That's good. I want to take another subject within the context of, your dreams and achieving your dreams, and that is prayer. I know that you are a passionate person and a man of prayer, and I want you to talk to the audience because I believe prayer is a very powerful thing when it comes to God speaking about our purpose. Will you tell us about how prayer and fulfilling the dream, the call, and thing that God may put before you,
Yes.
how does that work together and integrate itself?
Sure. Well, I was exposed to prayer at a very early age, watching my mom kneel down next to the bed and say her prayers and the rest of the family around the bed. So it was familiar to me. I remember the intonation of my mom praying and how, these prayers and supplications were going up, and it was such a conversational tone that it was comfortable. And so as I grew older, it wasn't out of line, out of place for me to pray. And so, again, that gets back to early exposure to praying, and then praying. Actually, the way I pray, there's my moment of prayer, but then that leads me into the meditation moments. But I will say this too. For the longest time, I had a different, I guess, interpretation of prayer. Some people I know, they say, hey, they take the scripture, pray without ceasing. And so I'm thinking, okay, does that mean I'm supposed to stay on my knees for an hour, 2 hours, overnight service, lock the doors of the church, everybody's praying. But then I'm reminded of the African proverb that says, pray and move your feet. And what that revealed to me is that prayer is active. It's you submit your prayers to the Lord, and then it's about moving. It's about watching God move through you and move that prayer along the line. Now, again, that prayer may not be answered in the form or fashion that you lifted it up, but it's just, to me, prayer is it's a verb. It's action, and so that's how I look at prayer, because it really gives me the motivation and the energy to move forward. And again, I'll say my prayers, and then after that, it's time to get busy, start working, and doing what, or moving in the direction that I ask God to bless the prayer.
That's good. Prayer moving us to action.
Yes.
That's a wonderful way to approach it. That's a wonderful way to approach it. Another question. Was there ever a time during your life when you felt discouraged? And how did you actually get through it?
Times that yeah, there were a few, Bishop, but it fueled me, because when things happen to me, yeah, there's some tears, and a couple of times I would call out to friends and ask people to pray for me. Um, but then it came back on me. When I think about, and this gets back to prayer, in terms of my discouragement, I would ask people to pray kind of as that buffer, but that doesn't absolve me from getting busy and working to try to work through this issue. And so yeah, there were times of discouragement. However, I had a good support system, in that I had my word, I had my friends, I had my family. Uh, but then, there's this, you get to this point where you dig deep down inside and realize, hey, I am, I am a child of the Lord, and I've got the power to really transform my life. But see, again, that causes us to dig down deep and find out who we are and extract all of that out of us to move us along. So I think the discouragement, the discouraging times are ways to test what we are made of, and give us those times and those moments to really kind of focus on how do we get around this obstacle in order to keep moving forward.
That's good. That's good advice, because I know personally, and I know you do too, and those who are out there are times when roadblocks are just going to be there. And just like we have to drive to our destination, there will be times when when the street is closed and we have to take some detours. But
That's right.
the key thing is, you just have to find ways to keep moving towards your destination.
And Bishop, I would also add this. You mentioned the detours. Sometimes, that road will require a U-turn. And so sometimes we have to come back, and turn around to kind of get our bearings right, and then get back or merge back onto that lane again and move forward towards our dreams and on our destinations.
Yes, that is absolutely true. I have to take some U-turns many times. Got to
Yes.
go back to go forward.
Right.
Go back to go forward. So we have another question. The questions are coming in,
Okay.
and the question is this: how often, or often, should I say, often our dreams require us to connect with others to make it happen?
Sure.
What if the people you believe you are called to work with don't want to do that kind of work?
Sure. Well, I'm a firm believer in really seeking out the best people in your circle. All right. And as the comment was saying, that everybody's not going to be in that circle. And again, everybody's not privy to follow you on your dream path. You know, God uses gardening as an excellent example. There are times where once you plant the seed and you're going for your dream and your goals, there's some weeding that needs to take place. And so, that you have to make sure that you weed out anything that's going to move your growth along. So, yeah, there are going to be people that will not support you. There will be people that you have to really look at and say, well, what is the skill set or skill sets that they're bringing to the table that may help me move along? People are very critical to your success. But the other part about that is that, I would recommend getting a group of people. I'll call them your dream acquisition team, your DAT. And these are people that have the skill sets or the resources to move you along. Now, here's the thing. You also have to offer something to that circle of people, because it can't be one way. And so you look at that circle and try to figure out, okay, how does this person help me move along to where I want to go? But then how can I also help that person? And so that would be my approach. But, again, Bishop, a lot of this really involves sitting down and processing the goal, the dream. The word talks about, sitting, make a vision and make it plain so that you can run and whoever reads it. And so it really is about sitting down. Most people, when you're talking about a business plan, a lot of people don't like the business plan piece of it.
Right.
They know they need it for a lender or an investor, but when you ask them to sit down and really plot out, how is this business going to work? How is this dream going to work? Very few people really put a whole lot of time and effort in that. And so to answer that question, I would say really look at your circle, identify the people who can help you along that path, and then, again, offer something in return. How can I help you? Because it really, it's a symbiotic relationship, and people want to help you. They want you to help yourselves, but you also have to be willing to put something back in the pot, if you will.
That's good. That's good. It's definitely a cycle that takes place. We also sow and we also reap. That's really
Amen.
powerful. It's really powerful. Another question came in, where just going to go back to the focus of prayer for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
We're praying every day, and this week, our theme for this week's prayer for our church is the power of I am, relating to the I ams of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
And so when it comes to talking about this focus on I am, can you talk about that?
Sure.
How does really understanding that the power that Jesus really had, when he says, "Okay, I am," what did that give him to really get to his destination, which was to provide salvation for all of us? And how do we somehow embrace that for ourselves?
Sure.
How does that work?
Well, I think, 2 words, 3 letters, I am. I think those 2 words should have a warning label, because if you really believe in it, then you have unlimited power. There's a reason why when people talk about goals and dreams, and most books out here today will tell you about, when you write down a dream, don't say I will become a CEO of a company, or I hope to become a famous author or painter, or I hope to go on vacation next year. Really, I am knocks it out of the box. It's plain and clear. I am an author. I am an artist. I am a CEO. Because the subconscious mind, once you plant I am up here, the subconscious mind doesn't know whether that's true or false. And so that's why it's so powerful, because I am really is a phrase that once it's planted, you begin to live out what you say you are. So let's say if I want to be if I say I am the CEO of Robert Ginyard Enterprises, once I start ingesting that, all of my actions will center around me being the CEO of Robert Ginyard International, or Enterprises. So my dress, my demeanor, my speech, all of those things are triggered by the subconscious, where it just becomes automatic. And so I am it's not something to take lightly. And when you do take that in, I believe you are on a trajectory that can take you to unlimited resources and power, but it's about belief. Now, here's another example. Muhammad Ali. People, they thought there was a lot of bragging and conceit going on. Uh, and he said, I am the greatest. He believed that. That didn't say he didn't lose a match here or there, but he believed that he was the greatest. And so everything that he did, just, greatness just exudes from him. And so, so I am, like I said, is very powerful. And again, once God gives you and equips you with all the gifts that you have, you just have to realize what you are made of. I remember, well, when Moses saw the burning bush, and then he got his marching orders, if you will, and then he starts saying, "Well, God, I am slow to speak," and he was talking about these things that made him unworthy, and God said, "Okay, look, well, I can equip you, I've got you, but you know what? Now, I'll give you an Aaron." Now all of us aren't going to have an Aaron, and so what he plants in us, we really have the power to execute. So when I think of I am, it is the absolute statement that if I make up my mind I'm going to do something and I say I am, there's no excuses. There's no excuses accepted. You just do it, handle your business, and keep it going.
That's good. That's good. That's straight to the point. That's straight to the point. Man, you know what? And half hour just kind of sped by. It just kind of like zip, you know. When you having these
I'm
good
sorry,
conversations,
Bishop. Did I
it
answer
just
your
go.
questions though?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Okay,
it was wonderful. But before you go, I want you to just
sure,
talk a little bit about um, your podcasts, and I know that
sure.
you've been doing podcasts and talk a little about it and tell us how they can actually listen to some of these wonderful podcasts that you're doing.
Sure. The show again is intentionally overheard, and it's a podcast where I bring on guests who have followed their dreams for the most part. Now, not all the episodes are about following the dream. A lot of times, it's just conversations about things that we go through on a daily basis and how we overcome those challenges. We really focus on purpose and passion and just living a life that gives you peace. And so we try to incorporate all of those elements into the show that we want people to overhear. And so that's the show. We typically we actually release episodes every other Wednesday. So the next new episode will be coming out next Wednesday, not today. I mean tomorrow, but the following Wednesday. So they come out bi-monthly, every other Wednesday. And so you can find the podcast on your favorite platforms: Spotify, Apple, iHeart, you name it. So it's out there. And we would love to have you tune in and listen in.
That's awesome. We will absolutely do that, and it's great. So I mean, you can get me on a Tuesday night and get you on a Wednesday.
There, you got it.
That'd be so cool. That'd be so cool. So it's great to have you with us. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to just kind of have this wonderful conversation and just to really tell us how to fulfill our dreams and tell us that we can be inspired to go further than we've ever been before. And I believe
Yes.
that God wants that for us. God wants us to
Amen.
live a life of more abundantly. And so
Amen.
I appreciate you taking the time to be with us
No,
tonight. And for
I
those of you,
appreciate you having me, Bishop. And if
great.
there's anything I can do on my end, please feel free to reach out to me.
Oh, sure. We're gonna have you back again. Absolutely, absolutely,
Thank you. Thank you,
absolutely.
Bishop.
And for those of you who are watching, thank you so much for joining us each and every week for BLAW Live and really supporting this actual just kind of talk of what we're really presenting to you is something that will inspire you, encourage you, and also give you some thought and really give you something to really help you build your life. And so with that, we want to say so long for now, and may the Lord bless you, may the Lord keep you, may the Lord cause his face to shine upon you, may the Lord be gracious unto you and give you his peace, his shalom, nothing missing, nothing broken.